you said this a little bit ago. You kind of mentioned that you really like description.
Hmm.
And so it made me think about, I love world building. So like readings, again, I like Tolkien. So reading a long passage of world building or like kind of an info dump of world building does not bug me. Like I'm all about it, you know? So what would you say about like, you read a book about writing or you see stuff online or videos and stuff, and everyone's got all these rules of how to keep your pacing and do all this stuff and how much description you should have or whatever. What are your thoughts on that? I'm kind of one of like, obviously there are rules to writing, but most of them can be broken, I think.
The same. I am the same. I can't. I've tried reading those writing books on writing, and I know they do have a lot of credit in them, I'm sure, and I know they really really do help some writers. But I find I prefer to just I think your writing voice and your writing style, it's it's really quite natural and organic. I think it comes from figuring out what works and what doesn't. But that's also just how I am as a learner as well. I'm I don't know, not to sound like really like I don't do rules, but like I can't follow a recipe, for example. If I'm cooking, I can't follow a recipe. And if
Hmm.
if I'm if I'm studying, I need to make my own notes. I can't just copy from the slides. I need to do it in a way that I understand. And I think I'm the same with writing. I can't follow like this formula and this format and these boxes because it's just not how the ideas come for me. Um, so I find, and the other thing is, like, I love description, right? I There are readers who will sit and read 3 pages about a tree. There are lots who won't, but there are some who will and who will enjoy it. And I suppose it's just, as writers, we need to figure out why we're doing this. Is it because we want, I don't know, we want to be the next, book talk, like viral, whatever that, going to be flying off the shelves, or is it because this is our craft and I want to write something that's just authentically my writing voice? And yeah, I think writing is a lot more personal than that. So I think for me, I'd rather write something that I have put my whole heart into and really made it my own and my own style and my own voice than trying to follow these like checker boxes. But
Yeah.
that's how I write personally.
Yeah, it's that kind of Venn diagram of like being yourself and writing something good, but also like something that people will read. Like there's
Yeah.
like a but I would always lean more towards like, you can't just necessarily write the thing that you want to write, but it still has to be good though.
Yes, it
Like
still
there's
has
like
to
a
be good.
weird, you don't want to fool yourself. Like I wrote
Yeah.
this thing and nobody's reading it, but I think it's amazing. Well, it's still got to be good.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
you definitely want to lean into like, like I love Tolkien and all that stuff. So what I'm writing is more high fantasy and I think if you looked at like the market, the traditional, if you go to Barnes and Noble or something, there's not a lot of like traditional high fantasy stuff.
Yeah.
But that's what I like to write. So it's that question of can I take what I want to write and make it good enough that it doesn't really matter what the trend is?
Yeah, and I think I definitely agree with the quality aspect. It doesn't um absolutely, at the end of the day, you want to publish something that you're proud of and that is good.
Mhm.
Like that's, and again, I think that's why, you know, we're both saying that the books we're writing have been taking a really, really long time. It's because it's never right yet. It's
Yeah.
never it's never yeah. That's what well, it's not it will be someday, I hope, but I'm
Mhm.
not putting that out until that's good. And that's why also I'm a big I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion, but I have no issue putting projects to the side. If like even I obviously you really really persevere and don't put it decide just because, oh, I'm not feeling it anymore. But for like, for example, that series, those books I wrote before, I'm proud of them because you know, I wrote them, and I'm proud that teenage me could write these books, but objectively they're not that good, you know?
Yeah.
So they stay for me as a, you know, trophy in a way, but no one has to read them. They're not that good.
Mm.
So I have no problems sort of stepping away from something and being like, okay, like that was good for my development as a writer, but
Um,
I can give the world something better.
Yeah, I'm totally not opposed. I have to having a couple projects going, and it's kind of what you're talking about. So I have the first book of my series. So long story short, the first manuscript I wrote, however long ago, that's back here that no one will ever read. That whole kind of concept has now become book 7 of the series that I'm wanting to write.
Amazing.
It
Beautiful.
just as I was working on it, I was like, this doesn't quite feel like the starting point. And then I just kind of went from there. But so I'm also writing. So I'm writing the first book, but I also started kind of a prequel novella, which
Beautiful.
when I started was more just like I was working on some things in the first book, but then I was struggling with some of like why things were happening. So I thought
Mm.
I'd go just explore that for a minute to be like, try to just mostly to work it out in my own head. And sometimes it's easier to actually write it versus try to outline it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So, but then finally, not that long ago, I had some of it's on the computer, some's in a notebook, and then I kind of looked at it all and I was like, hey, this novella is actually like I'm pretty close. Like, if I kind of smushed it all together, it's actually kind of working. And so I'm hoping to finish that novella soon. And like I got a couple of scenes and chapters to plug in, and then obviously lots of editing. But it just kind of clicked all of a sudden where I looked at everything I had and was like, hey,
This I can
it
use
kind
these.
of works. Yeah. So
And I as I said, I'm a massive fantasy. I love fantasy, massive fantasy nerd. I just love those series, those books where it's like a world and you can, like, they've got all of these sort of, yeah, novellas, sub stories, all this. It's exciting because once you fall in love with a world and a universe, it's so fun to just like keep going back and getting little snippets, like
mhm,
little snippets of it. So I love that. Yeah,
yeah,
high
I
fantasy.
think I was just thinking too about uh I think Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling writing those is probably one of the best examples of remaining authentic to what you want to do. Because I
Mm.
didn't that get turned down by like 27 publishers or something, like a ton of people. And so that's definitely a example of like she remained true to that vision of what she wanted that to be until she found someone
Mm.
that would take it.
Yeah,
And now, that was like the biggest thing for still is.
yeah, and it's brought so many. I think it's brought so many people into reading. But yeah, that's exactly it. She wrote her, and like the first Harry Potter is, I mean, obviously it's good. Like we're still reading it,
Mhm.
and it just like it exploded, right? But yeah, no, she's definitely a major sort of inspiration. Also in that, not again coming back to that thing we were talking about before with rejections, and not letting that kind of like, retreat back into your little like sad writer corner and being like, oh no, I've just
Mm.
failed as a creative. Like, it's, yeah, like, right,
Powering through.
powering through, write something you're proud of that, that is quality, and
Mhm.
stick to it.